UFC 306 from the Sphere, Mexican Independence Day. We've got multiple names for this card. I mean, it's UFC 306, it's Noche, UFC Noche, it's Riyadh Season UFC. I mean, whatever. We're just going to call it UFC 306 because that's what it is. And in the main event for the Bantamweight Championship, it is the Sugar Show, Sean O'Malley, taking on Merab Dvalishvili. It is Sean's second defense of the Bantamweight Championship, and again, it is, I think, his toughest challenger to date. Obviously, just Chito Vera and Merab. I think Merab's a much tougher matchup for O'Malley, but we will get to that fight when we get there in the main event. And folks, if you haven't yet, though, make sure to hit that subscribe button down below for some more UFC here on the channel. Tomorrow, we will have our Bellator Champion Series London card. Now, the main event of this card is Liam McCourt versus Sarah Collins. I'm not joking. That is what Bellator is main eventing with. Simeon Powell's in the co-main event, but yeah, that is legitimately what Bellator is putting on next weekend on Max. I don't understand. But anyways, that's also coming on tomorrow on the channel. And before we get into our picks, let's go to the Contender Series. We start things off with Corinne Laframboise taking on Nicole Kalari. Gonna go with the Brazilian and Kalari to win this fight. Laframboise is 35 years old. She hasn't fought a fight in 2 years. For Kalari, last one 10 months ago. Not overly impressed with either of these fighters in the flyweight division, but I'm going to go with Nicole Kalari to win this fight. Again, I'm going to pick against the 35-year-old who hasn't fought in 2 years. Give me the Brazilian to win this fight by decision. Next up, Otar Tanzilov from Georgia takes on Josias Musasa, I believe. From the Congo, Josias, the KO wizard. I'm more impressed with him than I am Otar. Otar, I don't feel like has fought great competition. Yeah, Josias hasn't either, but I like the power, I like the explosiveness a lot out of the fighter. Again, coming out of the Democratic Republic of Congo. I think Musasa goes out here and wins this fight. I think he shocks a lot of people. I'm going with Musasa to win the fight by first round knockout. If I can get this. There we go. Next up, we've got Yusri Balagari. I totally butchered his name. He's the guy who trains at Teixeira MMA. You see him in the dancing videos with Alex Pereira, but while Pereira's warming up for his fights, the baby-faced assassin coming over from the Netherlands is taking on Tagia Iwasaki. I'm going with the baby-faced assassin to win. Now, he got his chance in the Contender last year, lost to Marco Tulio. Again, the UFC wants this guy in the UFC. They want him in there, right? I feel like, again, they are going to try to put him up against a guy here in Iwasaki, who just lost to Rafael Lovato 2 years ago, but still only won one fight in the last 2 years, and it's against a 7-6 guy. I'm not impressed at all. I think, again, this fight is very set up for Teixeira MMA and Fitness Zone to win this fight and win it pretty decisively and win it pretty quickly. I think he goes out here and wins this fight by first round knockout. To our next one, Cody Steele versus Quimel Otani. I'm going to go with Cody Steele to win this fight. Of course, this is a guy coming in from Fury FC. He's been pretty dominant over there. He's 6-0. Again, he is the young prospect. He's 29, but he's still young, relatively young in his MMA career. This is the guy I think the UFC wants, obviously, and I think he's going to go out here and get a finish in the second round. This is in the lightweight division. I think he does go out and get that finish in the second round by TKO. As we go on to our main event, Philip Latu takes on Navajo Sterling. I'm going with Sterling to win the fight. I'm going to take him to win this one by first round knockout. Again, this one is in the light heavyweight division. Latu doesn't impress me all that much. He's 6-1 and he's 33 years old, coming in from CFFC. He's not the CFFC champion. He's just had 2 fights over there. Sterling, I'll be honest with you, doesn't really impress me all that much either. He hasn't fought anybody all that great. He's fought a former PFL name in Sam Key. He beat Key, but Key's like 9-9 as a pro. Sterling has shown knockout capability, but again, I don't like the level of competition he's faced, but I just think he's looked better in his recent fights. He's a city kickboxing guy. I think, again, he's huge for the weight class at light heavyweight. Same as Latu. Latu's 6'3", Sterling 6'4", but Sterling with an 83-inch reach. Yeah, I think that's what's going to propel him to victory here. He's going to be the much longer fighter. I think he's got more power, and all around, I just think his striking's better compared to Philip Latu. Give me Navajo Sterling to win the fight by first round knockout. As that does it for the Contender Series, we go on to the first of our 10 fights on this card, and we start things off here with Raul Rosas Jr. taking on the Mongolian murderer in Aoriqileng. Now, real quickly, there's only 10 fights on this card. I don't like it. Again, I understand we're trying to do the Mexican Independence Day theme, but first off, this card's in Las Vegas. It's not in Mexico. You only have 10 fights in this card, and this is the only card that's ever going to be on the Sphere. You could keep, legitimately, you could keep these 10 fights and just add, I don't know, some big names, not title names, or really not even top contenders, but just guys in the top 15 that fans know. And again, there's a reason why the get-in price to get into the Sphere went from $3,300 to about $600, in the last couple months. But again, you're telling me you couldn't get guys like, I don't know, Kevin Holland, who's fighting next month on this card. Derek Lewis, who's fighting in Edmonton, Alberta, next or in 2 months on this card. You're telling me you couldn't get Brandon Moreno, who is Mexican, who is going to be main eventing a card against Amir Albazi in Alberta, Canada. You couldn't just bump him up to this card. Again, I don't understand that. Right there, those would be 3 more fights in this card to be a 13-fight card, and I think the card as a whole would be a lot better. Again, just hear me out. You put Kevin Holland on... Yeah, you can put Kevin Holland on the main card. You put Brandon Moreno as a 5-round fight on the main card as well. And you put Derek Lewis as the prelim headliner instead of Irene Aldana and Norma Dumont. Come on. You could literally keep all of these other fights because 10 fights for a UFC card is not a lot. I'm sure, again, the UFC has a million backups for this fight card. So if someone does fall out, there will be 10 fights on this card. But I don't know. The UFC, again, the average card is about 13, and we're doing 10 for the Sphere. I don't like it. Let's start things off, though, with Raul Rosas Jr. and Aoriqileng. Raul Rosas Jr. should win this fight. Now, again, 19 years old. This will be his 5th fight in the UFC. Came in 2022, won his debut at 18 years old against Jay Perrin. Then after that, lost to Christian Rodriguez. Then beat Terrence Mitchell on the last, Mexican Independence Day card. And then most recently beat Ricky Tercios. Of course, that's where the Chihuihuis thing started, which it's funny, I guess. Rosas, though, again, 3-1 in the UFC. He's going to try to use his grappling to his advantage. Obviously, the Terrence Mitchell fight was the one outlier in, I guess, his fight so far in the UFC. That was because he got the fight. He won the fight on the feet, essentially knocked down Terrence Mitchell, followed up with strikes on the ground, ended up winning the fight by TKO in the first round in 54 seconds. He gets Aoriqileng, who's 31 years old, who's had a million pro fights. He's 25-11. He's 3-3 in the UFC. Came in 2021, lost a fight to Jeff Molina, lost to Cody Durden, beat Cameron Ellis, beat Jay Perrin, lost to Ayman Zahabi, and then beat Johnny Munoz Jr. Aoriqileng doesn't really have a signature UFC win yet. Again, the Cameron Ellis win is by finish in the first round, but there's really no win that's going to blow you away with Aoriqileng. Again, coming off a no contest against Daniel Marcos, it is what it is, unintentional strike to the groin. But Aoriqileng doesn't blow me away literally anywhere. I don't think his grappling's all that great. He's been outstruck multiple times in the UFC. Jeff Molina knocked him down twice and outstruck him the entire fight. Jay Perrin went out there and remained very competitive on the feet against Aoriqileng. Cameron Ellis was the only fight where, again, Aoriqileng just dominated. The Johnny Munoz fight, okay, same thing. But again, these are very, low-level guys in the UFC. I think Raul Rosas Jr., again, is the much better fighter. I think the grappling's going to play a huge factor in this fight as well. Johnny Munoz was able to see some success in terms of the wrestling against Aoriqileng, and I would expect Raul Rosas to do the same exact thing. Again, we are going to, I do this on most cards whenever they have a card in Brazil, when they have one in Canada. I'll keep track of, or even the last time they were in Mexico, I kept track of what I think the record is going to be for fighters of a certain descent. Obviously, there's going to be Mexican fighters on this card. Again, Raul Rosas is American, but, they are promoting him as a Mexican fighter going into this one. Of course, the UFC loves to make their sport international. So we are going to count this as 1-0 for the Mexican fighters on this card. Raul Rosas Jr. is going to go out here and win this fight by first round submission. He's a minus 675 favorite for a reason. The UFC has put Raul Rosas Jr. on this card for, again, a reason. He would be on the main card of this pay-per-view. However, they just want the first fight in the Sphere to be something special, so they want the 19-year-old big prospect, of course, Raul Rosas, to get that win. Aoriqileng, how does he beat Raul Rosas Jr.? I really don't know. I think striking-wise, they're very even. Aoriqileng, again, his grappling isn't very good. He really does not excel in any certain spot. I think Raul Rosas Jr., again, is the much better fighter. I think he drags this fight down. I think he gets a submission fairly quickly. This one is not going to last very long, and that's why the 19-year-old Raul Rosas Jr. is going to win the first ever fight in the Sphere. He's going to get it done by first round submission over Aoriqileng. To our next fight, we go now to the flyweight division. Edgar Chairez gets Josh Van on short notice. I'm kind of surprised Van is such a he's not a big underdog, but I'm surprised he is an underdog to start this fight off against Chairez. Chairez is 11-5. This is a guy who's coming off of that win over Daniel Lacerda. Obviously, they have the back-to-back fights, where the first one, again, is the no contest, where Chairez had it won on Mexican Independence Day, but they overturned it. It is what it is. Lacerda gets the rematch over in Mexico, and Edgar Chairez finishes him in the first round. Again, Lacerda, a very fun fighter to watch. Every single fight Lacerda had in the UFC was very entertaining. It's just that he didn't really win any fights in the UFC at the same time. But still, it made for some very fun fights and very fun finishes. Chairez now gets Josh Van, who Van is coming off of his first loss in the UFC UFC, and second loss as a professional mixed martial arts fighter since his third ever fight. But it's a loss where he got knocked out against Charles Johnson. That was only 2 months ago. So I think that's probably where these odds are coming into play here. Just because, again, yeah, Josh Van just got knocked out 2 months ago, got knocked down in that fight. Was getting outstruck in that fight against Charles Johnson. Charles Johnson has really surprised me as he's come into his own, I would say, so far in the UFC. Again, I remember that guy from LFA. He was the LFA champion. He defended his belt against Moda. I believe it was a 5th round TKO finish. That's the fight that got Charles Johnson in the UFC. He's looked really good recently, and he was able to finish Josh Van. And I don't think that's, again, Josh Van being not that good. I just think Charles Johnson is truly a top 15 guy in the weight class. However, I don't like Joshua Van turning around so quickly after just getting knocked out. It has been 3 months, which, no, it's only been 2 months. Yeah, that's not a lot of time. It's not a lot of time. It's going to be 2 months in a day since Josh Van got knocked out against Charles Johnson, to the point where he's going to be fighting Edgar Chairez, right? Before the Van Johnson fight, Joshua Van beat Jauregui Jumagulov, he beat Kevin Borjas, beat Felipe Bunez, really good wins. And I think, again, if Josh Van wasn't coming into this fight on A, short notice, and B, coming off of a knockout loss, I think he'd be in a very good position to win this fight, and I think he'd be the favorite going into this fight. Again, don't forget, Josh Van, a very young fighter coming from Myanmar. He's only 22 years old, training out of Houston, Texas. Again, a guy who's got a very bright future ahead of him. I just don't know if I like this matchup in terms of him against Chairez because of how quickly he's turning this fight around. But it's not like Chairez can, absolutely blast you in terms of his striking. He doesn't have the best striking game. He knocked down Tetsuro Taira, but other than that, that's really all the damage that Edgar Chairez has really been able to do on guys so far in the UFC. I mean, sure, he damaged Lacerda a little bit, but that will happen literally in every Daniel Lacerda fight, so I don't put much into that. Edgar Chairez lost a Contender Series fight back in 2022 to Clayton Carpenter. I think this fight's very close on paper. I am ever so slightly, though, going to go with Edgar Chairez to win the fight. I'm going to take him by unanimous decision. I just don't like Josh Van taking this fight on short notice. I think Josh Van has, I don't know how active he's been in camp, obviously, because, again, he just came off a loss 2 months ago. And, again, the chin is always going to play a factor. I'm still going to go with Chairez to win the fight by decision. However, again, I just don't like the such short turnaround for Josh Van. I don't know how conditioned he's going to be going into this fight. I think Chairez is, again, well equipped, obviously, for the 15 minutes because he's been training for this fight. And Josh Van, oh man, yeah, I don't know. I just don't like the short turnaround. I think, again, if this was on a normal camp, Josh Van hadn't just got knocked out 2 months ago, I'd take Van to win the fight. I just think with everything considered, I think Edgar Chairez does get the win. I think the odds should be a lot closer than what they are. Again, Chairez hovering around a -175 favorite. Josh Van at a +135. I think they should be a lot closer than that, but I'm going to take, unfortunately, I want Van to win the fight, but I'm going to take Edgar Chairez to win the fight by unanimous decision. That will make the Mexican fighters 2-0 on this card. Chairez originally had a date scheduled against Kevin Borjas. Again, now it is Van instead. I think Chairez picks up the biggest win of his career, and he goes out there and beats Josh Van. He might get a knockdown, I think, in this fight. I just think, again, the short turnaround and, the lack of camp is really going to hurt Josh Van in this one. I think, again, Chairez should be able to drag him into deep waters late in this fight and just kind of outpush him and outpace him late into this fight. Give me Chairez again by unanimous decision. As we go on to the strawweight division, we have got Yasmin Jauregui taking on Ketlin Souza. Again, another fight where the Mexican fighter is looked at as a pretty sizable favorite. Jauregui, again, has had one bad fight in her UFC career. It was International Fight Week in 2023, where she did get knocked out in 20 seconds to Denise Gomez. Since then, it has been smooth sailing for Yasmin Jauregui. Again, 3-1 in the promotion, came in her UFC debut. Two fighters making their UFC debuts over in San Diego, where she beat Yasmin Lucindo. After that, a TKO win over in Orlando, Florida against Estela Nunes. Then the loss to Denise Gomez, where, again, nothing really happened in that fight. Jauregui closes distance right away in the fight. Gomez catches her, boom, fight over. And then after that, again, the win over Sam Hughes, which was a lot closer than I would have liked it to be. Jauregui wins the fight, don't get me wrong. And she wins every single round. It's just that, again, Sam Hughes remains somewhat competitive in that fight. Again, Jauregui wins every single round of that fight, but Sam Hughes just kind of lingers and stays in the fight like she tends to do. But again, Jauregui gets the nod, and she wins the fight, obviously, by unanimous decision. Now you get Jauregui and Ketlin Souza. And Ketlin Souza, again, is a fighter who is 1-1 in the UFC, right? She's coming off a win over Marnik Man, which literally every fighter in the UFC strawweight division should be able to beat Marnik Man. Nothing against her, I just don't think she's very good at fighting. Souza's first fight in the UFC, though, a loss to Karine Silva. It's a knee bar loss in the first round, and now you get her and Yasmin Jauregui. Ketlen Souza, again, has been billed and kind of has shown in the past that she is a decent striker, at least in the regional scene. I'll be honest, I haven't seen it much so far in the UFC, just because, again, Marnik Man is just not very good, and the Karine Silva fight, Silva got her to the ground immediately, got the takedown and locked up that knee bar and got the win. So I haven't been blown away with Ketlen Souza just yet, and now she's walking into a fight where she's fighting a fighter in Yasmin Jauregui, who's at a minus 450 favorite odds for this fight. And again, Souza's from Brazil, Jauregui's from Mexico. Why does that matter? It matters because, again, this is Mexican Independence Day, and the UFC wants these Mexican fighters to win. They are giving them favorable matchups, I think, personally. I'm taking Yasmin Jauregui to win the fight by decision. But again, on paper, though, she is just levels ahead of Ketlen Souza in terms of the striking game. She's the way quicker fighter. Souza, again, I think the Marnik Man fight, yeah, she won, but I think Yasmin Jauregui would get a finish against Marnik Man. And again, I know MMA math doesn't, add up that way, and it doesn't work that way at all, but I just think Jauregui is the way quicker fighter. She's got way better striking. I think she's got more power in her hands. And again, with the exception of that one loss to Denise Gomes, which it is what it is, she got caught early in the fight, and obviously, again, Denise Gomes, like MMA works, then ran into Angela Hill right after and lost. And Angela Hill, of course, obviously killed off another prospect. But that's actually probably the next fight for Yasmin Jauregui. I'm not joking. Right, seriously. I think Jauregui will probably get Angela Hill next. Hill's coming off loss to Tabitha Ricci. It's a way to get Jauregui in the top 15. I think, again, it is time for Jauregui to start fighting better fighters. Again, she's fighting Sam Hughes. Now you're getting Ketlen Souza, two entry-level fighters in the UFC. Let's see her against some solid fighters. She's not, again, 23 like she was when she made her UFC debut. She's 25 now. She should finally be entering her prime, or at least starting to. Give me Yasmin Jauregui to win the fight by unanimous decision over Ketlen Souza. She is just the much better striker and has much better and much quicker hands as a whole. So let's go on to our next one here. This is a very solid fight. This fight should be on the main card. I don't know why it's not. Manuel Torres taking on Ignacio Bahamondes. What a damn fight. This is a good one because, again, Manuel Torres, undefeated in the UFC. He's 3-0 coming off wins over not the greatest guys, I'll be honest with you. Frank Camacho, Nicholas Mota, Chris Duncan. Those aren't the best fighters, but all three of those fights are first-round finishes for Manuel Torres, and now he goes out and gets a very good striker in Ignacio Bahamondes, who is 4-2 in the UFC, but it's coming off a brutal head kick knockout finish in his last fight against Christos Giagos. This is one of the best fights on this card. Someone is getting finished, and it's going to be fun. I'm very excited for this fight. I think where Manuel Torres does hold an advantage in this fight, though, is on the ground. Ignacio Bahamondes, you saw Ludovic Klein go to the well a couple times in the takedowns in their fight, and that's kind of where Klein just was able to grind out rounds and win. The two rounds that Klein won was the first and third rounds of that fight against Ignacio Bahamondes, and those are the rounds he was able to get Bahamondes down. The second round, the one that Bahamondes won, it was a round that was primarily stood up on the feet, and again, Bahamondes won most of the striking exchanges against Ludovic Klein, but where Ludovic Klein won that fight was on the ground. You get Manuel Torres, who is coming off, again, that Chris Duncan win where he took down Duncan in the first round, took his back, got the submission. And again, Torres can strike too. I think Ignacio Bahamondes is the better striker, don't get me wrong. I like, again, the body of work that Bahamondes has put together so far in the UFC. He is the much bigger fighter. He is 6'3" compared to Torres' 5'10", which, again, doesn't matter once the fight hits the mat. But in terms of a striking game, obviously, again, that is going to play a big factor. But Bahamondes as a whole has looked really good in the UFC. I think we can put aside his UFC debut where he lost to John McDessie by split decision. It is what it is. It was a back and forth war in the feet that Bahamondes ended up losing. Then you got the win over Roosevelt Roberts after that. That's the spinning wheel kick knockout. Tremendous finish. Then the Rong Zhu win by guillotine choke, which, by the way, everyone thought Rong Zhu was going to be Chris Padilla. We got that one right. I thought that one was pretty obvious. Padilla ended up winning that fight last week. Just tooting my own horn there. But anyways, Bahamondes after that beats Trey Ogden, then loses to Ludovic Klein, and then, of course, coming off the win over Christos Giagos in the first round. Again, Torres has not seen a second round so far in the UFC. This is a guy who has almost a 100% finish rate so far in his career. He only has one decision. I believe that's all the way back in 2018 for Torres. I think, again, the height disadvantage for Torres is going to be a little bit tough because Bahamondes is 5 inches taller than him, which again, Torres is not a short lightweight at all. He's just 5'10", and Bahamondes happens to be 6'3", fighting at 155 pounds, which is absolutely insane. But I think the grappling, though, is going to play a huge factor in this fight because I think that's where Torres is better, and ultimately, that's where I think Manuel Torres is going to win this fight. I think Manuel Torres is going to get it done. I think he will win this fight by submission in the second round. I think Torres will see his first, second round in the UFC, and I think, again, I don't think this fight's going to go to the scorecards. I believe, Tapology, 71% of voters are going with Manuel Torres. 46 of those people who are picking Torres to win the fight pick him by decision. I don't think the fight goes the distance, I'll be honest with you. Someone will probably get finished in this fight. I think Torres has the much better chance of winning this fight on the ground, and I think that's why he will go to that well. Again, Bahamondes, I don't believe has ever been submitted, if I'm not mistaken. Oh, no, he has been submitted twice, excuse me. Has never been submitted in the UFC, but has been submitted twice back in 2017 and in 2016. The 2016 one is to a UFC name in Preston Parsons. But again, he hasn't been submitted in 6 years. I think Manuel Torres will get it here, though. I just think Torres is better on the ground. On the feet, I think they are evenly matched, but I do think Bahamondes is slightly better. I think the striking advantage will go to him, and it's partly because of, again, that big reach advantage he's going to have in this fight, and because of the kicks Bahamondes throws. He is a very unorthodox striker who's going to throw a lot of stuff at you. I think Torres is able to, get through that. I think Torres is able to get that takedown. I think Torres is able to find that success on the ground. Again, the fight that stands out for me is the Bahamondes-Ludovic Klein fight. Yes, Bahamondes looks good against these guys like Ogden, Yagos, and Rong Zhu and Roosevelt Roberts, but Manuel Torres is another up-and-coming prospect who's undefeated in the UFC, is 3-0, and who hasn't seen a second round yet and has finished all of his fights fairly quickly. Yeah, I'm going to go with Manuel Torres to win the fight. I think he gets it done by second round submission. I believe this is the first time I've ever picked against Ignacio Bahamondes in his UFC career. It is. But we're going to be going with Manuel Torres here. I think he finds a way to the submission. I think he finds his back, and I think Torres will get the sub, making the Mexican fighters in this card. And I understand Bahamondes is Chilean, but still, technically, again, the Mexican fighters are 4-0 on this card. Give me Manuel Torres to beat Ignacio Bahamondes by second round submission. Let's now go on to our prelim headliner. It's our feature fight, Irene Aldana versus Norma Dumont. Like you're telling me, again, this could be a Derek Lewis fight, and instead we have Irene Aldana and Norma Dumont. Guys, I would take a crappy, bottom of the barrel heavyweight fight. Why couldn't Tai Tuivasa, actually, yeah, why couldn't Justin Tafa be on this card? But the fight I was looking for, why couldn't Tai Tuivasa and Jairzinho Rozenstruik be on this card? You couldn't push that back a month? Like, again, I know you wanted Tai in Australia, but damn, Tai at the Sphere with the shoe, he would have been cool, even though, again, Rozenstruik would have won the fight. But still, you tell me you couldn't put Tai Tuivasa on this card, and instead we get Irene Aldana and Norma Dumont as our prelim headliner? Just why? I don't understand it. Now, Norma Dumont surprisingly has been very good recently. She's been very good. And again, her fights have not been entertaining at all. It's just been, pushing her opponent back up against the fence, just holding on to him and just grappling him. But Norma Dumont now finds herself, I would think, a fight or two away from the title at 135 pounds. It's interesting. Now, again, Dumont's been the number one contender, the uncrowned champion at 145 pounds for a while, but the UFC is obviously moving on from that weight class. So she moved on to 135 in her last fight. She beat a former champion in Jauregui, who's going to be fighting on the undercard of the next UFC card in France in 2 weeks. It is what it is. But Dumont gets Irene Aldana now. Aldana, of course, is coming off of a win in her last fight against Carol Hossa at UFC 296. Before that, it was a loss, of course, in Amanda Nunes' final fight over in Vancouver, Canada, where she lost that fight by unanimous decision to Nunes. This is, again, a clash of styles. Irene Aldana is a boxer. She's going to have to keep the fight standing. But Irene Aldana has really struggled with good grapplers in the UFC. She just has. Fighters that have been able to take her down have seen a lot of success. Carol Hossa, I thought, again, that was the pathway for her victory in that Aldana fight. She didn't go to that well. She was willing to stand and strike with Aldana. It was a pretty good fight that was close. I think Aldana, again, wins it based on damage, but the fight is very close. Go rewatch that fight. Actually, I don't know if you want to rewatch a women's MMA fight, but it's not a bad one. But where Aldana has struggled in her UFC career has been with good wrestlers. And it's not even like Holly Holm, again, who came up as a boxer, is a great wrestler, but Holm was able to take her down and get her down at will in their 5-round main event back in 2020. You look at Amanda Nunes' final fight, again, she was able to go out there and out-wrestle and out-grapple Irene Aldana as well. Again, it was a striking masterclass at the same time, but Nunes was able to go to that wrestling and to that grappling when she needed it in that fight. Aldana had some trouble with Macy Chiasson. Of course, eventually Aldana ended up winning that fight. That was the upkick knockout, was it not? Yeah, that was the upkick fight. But still, Chiasson was dominating that fight on the ground for the most part when, again, they had those wrestling exchanges. Now you get Aldana and Dumont, and literally that's all Norma Dumont does. Again, the fight's not going to be entertaining. Norma Dumont, every single fight in the UFC has gone the distance for her since her UFC debut back in Norfolk, Virginia in 2020, where she got knocked out against Megan Anderson. Again, this fight is expected to go to the scorecards if Norma Dumont's going to win, and I think that's where this fight's going to go. I think Norma Dumont actually will get the win in this fight. This will be the first Mexican fighter losing on this card. I'm taking Dumont to win the fight by unanimous decision. I believe right now she's the underdog. I think that line will move as we get closer to fight night, but I think, again, stylistically, Norma Dumont is a bad matchup for Irene Aldana. Dumont does not let you get space. She's always going to be tight in range. She's always going to try to put you up against the fence. She's looking for the takedown. She's looking for anybody to drag this fight down to the mat. Dumont uses her strength and her size very effectively. Now, again, I don't know who's going to be the stronger fighter in this one between her and Aldana. We will see. Aldana is pretty big for the weight class. But I think where Dumont, again, does have the edge is going to be in just, which this is going to sound bad, but in making the fight boring. That's how Dumont wins. This is not going to be an entertaining fight by any stretch of the imagination if Dumont is in control, which we expect her to be. Because, again, Aldana is a good boxer, but if Dumont's able to close distance and get this fight, at least on the ground or against the fence, it's just going to be a boring night for Irene Aldana. It's going to be a frustrating night for Irene Aldana. Norma Dumont's got to follow the strategy of Holly Holm. Clinch a lot, try to work the body lock, trying to get Irene Aldana down. I think that if that is used effectively, Norma Dumont will be fine. Also to note, Aldana is 36 years old. Again, it was one war she had against Karol Rosa, but how many of those can you have? Again, it was a war. It was a back and forth fight that she won against Karol Rosa. You're coming off that. Now you get Norma Dumont. You've already fought for the belt. You probably have to win 2 more fights to get back to the championship. I'm taking the fighter who has not fought for the belt yet. I'm taking the fighter who's 3 years younger in this fight. I'm taking the fighter that has the stylistic advantage. So give me Norma Dumont to beat Irene Aldana. She will get it done by unanimous decision. As we go on to our main card, what a cracker of an opener we have. Oh, it's a banger. Ronaldo Rodriguez versus Ode Osbourne. That is the pay-per-view headliner, or sorry, not headliner. If that was the headliner, that'd be bad. This is the pay-per-view opener of the Sphere. The fight card that will only happen once, ever. Ode Osbourne and Ronaldo Rodriguez. Why? I mean, there are better fights that were on the undercard that could be on here. Why is it Torres Bahamondes on this card? I understand Raul Rosas Jr. being the first fight, because again, you want to get people in the seats and you want people to start watching when the fight card starts. But why is Ronaldo Rodriguez and Ode Osbourne the pay-per-view opener? It's not even like, and I love Ode Osbourne. If you go rewatch every single prediction video I've ever made that Ode Osbourne, every card that Ode Osbourne has been on, I will always start an Ode Osbourne prediction by saying, that's my guy. The Picasso of MMA, Ode Osbourne. He's still my guy. I really like Ode Osbourne. I picked Ode Osbourne pretty much every single fight he's had. I don't know about this one, but why are we opening up the main card with this? Guys, Ode Osbourne, who, again, I'm a huge fan of, is in danger of being cut if he loses this fight. I think he will, even though he'll only be 4-6 in the UFC, but he would have lost 4 of 5 fights. This might be it for my guy Picasso. And again, I hate it. I hate that this might be it for Ode Osbourne in the UFC, but it likely will if he can't go out there and beat Ronaldo Rodriguez. And where Ode Osbourne struggled recently has been in terms of the grappling. Jafel Filo was able to go out there and get a submission in the first round. Asu Ambayev was able to submit him in the second round, Nashville, Tennessee in 2023. The Tyson Nam fight really screwed up Ode Osbourne's trajectory in the 125-pound weight class. Now he came back and beat Charles Johnson after that, which is a victory that keeps on aging better and better, which might be the reason why Osbourne will probably get another fight, even if he loses this one to Ronaldo Rodriguez. But again, the back-to-back losses to Ambayev and Filo are tough. And again, now, unfortunately, the blueprint on how to beat Ode is kind of out there. It's you go out there and grapple him and you take him down. It's something that Ronaldo Rodriguez can do. However, in his last fight against Denise Bondar, Bondar was the one pushing the pace in terms of the wrestling. Bondar was the one who took him down 4 times. It's just that Ronaldo Rodriguez was able to reverse positioning every single time Bondar took him down. Seriously, every time Bondar gets a takedown, Rodriguez was able to flip positions. He was able to find a way onto a back or on top or on mount, and that's how he was able to go out there, take the back of Bondar at the end of the second round and get the submission win by rear naked choke. Now, I don't think Bondar is the greatest. I don't think he was the best UFC name. I don't think he's no longer in the promotion, if I'm not mistaken, because he was 0-3. Yeah. So again, that doesn't, come off the table for you for Ronaldo Rodriguez either. And again, his win before that Denis Bondar fight is against an 11-11 Angel Rodriguez in Lux Fight League. So, and also, he has a loss in the Contender Series in 2020 to Jerome Rivera, who was one of the worst UFC fighters. He went 0-4 and got knocked out in 26 seconds against Ode Osbourne in 2021. But now you get Ronaldo Rodriguez against Ode Osbourne, and it's just, I don't know. Again, Rodriguez should look to wrestle. Obviously, again, he was not the one engaging in that wrestling against Denis Bondar, but he was able to show how good of a jiu-jitsu player and how good of a grappler he can be. And I think that's really going to pay dividends in this fight against Ode Osbourne. Again, Ode, who has been subbed, 3 times now in the UFC? I believe it's 3 times. Yeah, he's been subbed, 4 times? No, 3 times in the UFC, 4 times as a professional. Again, back-to-back fights against Filo and Ambayev, and then the Brian Kelleher fight on his first ever fight in the UFC at UFC 246 on a Conor McGregor main card. So, again, Ode Osbourne, I believe, will be the first fighter to be on a main card of both a Conor McGregor and Sean O'Malley pay-per-view card. I would think, right? Oh, Sean O'Malley himself. I think. Okay, other than Sean O'Malley, I believe Ode Osbourne is the only fighter to be on main cards of both O'Malley and Conor headlines. I think. I could be mistaking someone. No, not Tony Ferguson. Yeah, I believe I could be completely wrong. But I think Ode Osbourne seriously might be the only fighter who's been on a main card that's been headlined by both Conor and O'Malley. And again, that Brian Kelleher fight, it was hilarious. This is where I became a fan of Ode Osbourne. On the intro to the fight, again, they're doing the whole tail of the tape or whatnot. Before the tail of the tape, the Ode Osbourne, interview, he's saying, people are talking about this, the Conor McGregor fight. In 10 years, people are going to say, wow, Conor McGregor is on the Ode Osbourne card. And that's where they introduced him as the Picasso of MMA. My goodness. I like Ode a lot, but I think Ronaldo Rodriguez wins this fight. Now, again, I have not really seen Ronaldo Rodriguez's offensive wrestling much, I'll be honest with you. But I am inclined to believe that he is going to be able to go to that well on the ground. I think he is going to be able to go out there and get a takedown. And once he does, I love Ode Osbourne, but I just can't take him in this fight because, again, I think there's a glaring weakness in his game, and that's his wrestling. That's not his wrestling, but it's his jiu-jitsu. I don't mind Ode Osbourne striking at all. I think it's quite decent, actually. Again, he went out there, knocked out Jerome Rivera, but the big win for him is when he went out there and outstruck Charles Johnson, who, again, is coming off a win over Josh Van in his last fight. Johnson's a guy, again, who is into the top 15 now, who is a very solid guy, and Ode Osbourne went out there and outstruck him. I don't think he's able to keep the fight standing against Ronaldo Rodriguez. If this is a striking fight the entire time, I think Ode Osbourne can beat Rodriguez. But in terms of the grappling and whatnot, I think Rodriguez does get this fight down. I think he gets a takedown. I think he finds his way to the back. And unfortunately for my guy, Ode Osbourne, the Jamaican sensation, the Picasso of MMA, Ronaldo Rodriguez gets the win by first round submission, pushing the Mexican fighters to 5-1 on this card. As we go on to our next fight here, we have got Daniel Zellhuber taking on Esteban Ribovics. This is a very fun fight. Zellhuber is one of the best prospects that the UFC has of Mexican descent. Again, there's a lot of them. Raul Rosas is American. I'm not going to count him, but Manuel Torres is probably the other guy I'm thinking of here. But Daniel Zellhuber is 15-1 as a professional mixed martial arts fighter. He's 3-1 in the UFC. After losing his first fight to Trey Ogden, he has won 3 in a row. And Zellhuber, again, deserves to be on this main card. This is a showcase fight for Zellhuber. This is the fight that is going to get the general public, again, used to and accustomed to Daniel Zellhuber performances. And then, again, this is a huge opportunity for the guy. It's like last month on the Adesanya Duplessis card, where they put Carlos Prates in the main event because they knew he was going to go out there and get a really big finish of the Leech Li Jingliang. That's kind of what this fight feels like to me for Daniel Zellhuber. They are expecting Zellhuber to get a very good finish, either that or just, walk through Ribovics and outstrike him for 15 minutes. And then again, because Zellhuber hasn't knocked anybody out in the UFC. He did that a lot in Lux, and he did that a lot prior to his UFC run, but in the UFC so far, actually, he has not gotten a knockout finish. But anyways, I think they are expecting Zellhuber to walk through Ribovics, go out there and get a 30-27, scorecard, and again, promote another big Mexican star that they are, at least a prospect that they can hype up in Zellhuber. Again, this guy's 3-1. It was nothing but finishes prior to his UFC run, right? I mean, prior to his UFC career, I believe he only had, 1 or 2 decision victories. Since then, it's been kind of nothing but decisions. The Contender Series decision win over Lucas Almeida, the Lando Venata decision victory, the Christos Giagos second round Anaconda choke finish, and then a unanimous decision victory in his last fight against Francisco Prado. Don't get me wrong, again, he's going out here and he's dominating these fights. I wouldn't say dominating, but he's having really good performances. The Prado fight won fight of the night over in Mexico. Very fun fight that Zellhuber does start to pull away from at the end of that fight, getting a 30-26 card as well in that one. The Lando Venata fight, again, dropped Venata in that fight, ended up getting the decision victory. I don't think Zellhuber is bad at all. I think, again, his power, I don't know if he really just had all that power prior to his UFC run, or it was just he was fighting cans. Like, his last fight before fighting in the Contender Series was against the guy making his pro MMA debut. But again, the intangibles and the skills were all there, and they were all apparent for Zellhuber prior to his UFC run. I haven't spoken yet about Esteban Ribovics. This is a guy who's 2-1 in the UFC, and is coming off a brutal knockout victory against Terrence McKinney in his last fight. And again, Terrence McKinney's either going to give you a very fun highlight reel finish from his own end, or he's going to get highlight reel knocked out on the other end of it too, right? I mean, this is a guy, again, who has never seen a scorecard in his MMA career. He's had, 23 fights, 22 fights, and he's never been to a decision, Terrence McKinney. That's just what he does. And the Esteban Ribovics fight, I mean, again, it's a very quick knockout finish in 37 seconds in St. Louis, Missouri. Terrence McKinney gets knocked down with a head kick by Ribovics. Ribovics' first knockout win in the UFC. Before that, a loss to Luik Radzhabov in his UFC debut, and then a Camuela Kirk unanimous decision after that. I don't think Ribovics is horrible. I just think, again, I think Zellhuber is a slightly better striker. Zellhuber is going to be a much bigger fighter as well. He's going to have an 8-inch reach advantage against Esteban Ribovics. I think Zellhuber should be able to keep his distance. I think even in terms of a grappling attack too, I think Zellhuber is the better wrestler. Again, I've seen Esteban Ribovics, who, again, I get Radzhabov is a very good wrestler, but again, Radzhabov took him down 11 times in their fight in Ribovics' UFC debut. I think Zellhuber is just able to maintain distance in this fight, stay out the way of these crazy power shots Ribovics, we know now, is capable of throwing, like in that Terrence McKinney fight where he knocked him out with the head kick. We know Ribovics is capable of that. I think Zellhuber, again, knows that as well. I think he's going to be able to keep distance, use his reach to his advantage. Again, he's going to have an 8-inch reach advantage in this fight. Zellhuber is huge for 155 pounds. He's 6 feet 1 inches tall, 77-inch reach. Again, compared to Ribovics is 5'10", 69-inch reach. Yeah, that's big time for Zellhuber. Again, I think it's important he makes a statement with this victory here. I think he's going to walk through Esteban Ribovics in a way that we haven't seen Ribovics walk through so far in his MMA career, or at least his UFC career. I think the golden boy, Daniel Zellhuber, puts on his best performance to date as he goes out there and picks up a 30-27 unanimous decision victory over Esteban Ribovics. Again, the biggest of his career. Give me Zellhuber to win this fight by unanimous decision. To our feature fight, Brian Ortega takes on Diego Lopes, a fight originally scheduled for UFC 303. Obviously, Ortega, fight scheduled originally for 145 pounds, and then gets moved to lightweight a couple days before the fight. Ortega does make weight, looks horrible, looks drained. Fight gets canceled. Diego Lopes instead gets a new opponent in one Dan Ige on literally 3 hours notice. Lopes wins the fight. Now this fight is rebooked. Again, Lopes just fought less than 3 months ago, and now we get the originally scheduled bout here against T-City Brian Ortega. This one is scheduled for featherweight at 145 pounds. Interesting. Very interesting. Now, again, Ortega is back just less than 3 months from that original date. And same with Lopes too, who did take a little bit of damage in that Ige fight. Again, he wins it by decision. But again, despite the Dan Ige fight, and despite him not looking as dominant as Diego Lopes has looked in his little win streak over guys like Gavin Tucker, Pat Sabatini, Sodiq Yusuff, it's still a decent win, and it's a fight that, again, Lopes took on 3 hours notice, up a weight class. I'm not mad at it at all. Now, again, on full camp, again against Brian Ortega. He's preparing for this fight. How good is Brian Ortega? How in the game is Brian Ortega? That's my question. And again, a Brian Ortega that's going to be drained again, I feel like, at 145 pounds. Originally, I'll be honest with you, I took Brian Ortega to beat Diego Lopes at that 303 fight. I don't think I can pick Brian Ortega again, just because, again, I don't know what shape Brian Ortega is going to be in for this originally scheduled fight against Diego Lopes. And again, if you're fighting Diego Lopes drained, not at 100%, it's just going to be a long night for you. I think Diego Lopes is going to win this fight. I'm going to talk more about this, but I'm going to take Diego Lopes to win the fight. I think he gets it done by first round knockout. Again, this just feels like a Diego Lopes victory in the sphere. He is, again, one of the up-and-coming guys in the UFC, and I understand Brian Ortega, and the reasoning I took Brian Ortega originally against Diego Lopes was because of his win against Yair Rodriguez. Even though, again, Ortega rolls his ankle early in the fight in Mexico. He gets knocked down, almost gets finished in the first round. He comes back in the second and in the third and absolutely dominates the fight on the ground. I thought he was going to have his way on the ground against Diego Lopes. I just don't think that's going to be the case now, considering I don't know at what percent Brian Ortega is going to be at going into this Lopes fight. Again, It's not like he just missed weight or he just fell ill prior to the fight. No, the fight was originally at 145. They had to move the fight up to 155, and then he still couldn't make the date and still couldn't fight that fight against Lopes. That's not good. It's just not. Was he sick? Sure, but that sickness had to be, I think, had to be a result of the weight cut miss. Or still, missing 145 and having to bump up to 55, but still being drained, right? And again, if you are at all not 100%, Diego Lopes is going to exploit you. And again, I think Ortega coming into this fight drained. Lopes is going to take advantage. The chin isn't going to be all there for Brian Ortega. And I know T-City is a tough guy to crack. He's only been finished twice, really once by TKO. That's the Max Holloway fight after all that damage from Holloway. But Diego Lopes hits so damn hard. He's so quick. And again, the way Lopes is going to win this fight, I think, is going to be early. Now, don't get me wrong, if this fight goes the distance, is it 3 rounds or 5 rounds? This is 3 rounds. If it goes the full 3, I still think Lopes wins. But again, Lopes is 100% at his best early in the fight. And I think that is where he does get Brian Ortega in this fight. I'm taking Diego Lopes to beat Brian Ortega by first round knockout. I just don't think, again, I don't think T-City's chin's going to be all the way there because of, again, I think he's going to absolutely kill himself to get down to 145 pounds. That was, I think, evident in his last fight against Diego Lopes. That didn't happen. I still think T-City has the skills, but if Yair Rodriguez is doing that to him, and I think Yair is very good as well, but Yair had him almost dead to rights. I don't think T-City is going to be able to come back. Okay, if Diego Lopes has Brian Ortega in the situation that Yair Rodriguez had Brian Ortega in their rematch in Mexico City, I don't think Ortega can come back from that, obviously. He's not going to have a, head and shoulders advantage over Diego Lopes in the grappling game. Don't get me wrong, I do think Brian Ortega can win in terms of a jiu-jitsu match against Diego Lopes. I think where Lopes wins this fight, though, is on the feet and with the striking. But I don't think T-City's, going to be 100% able to completely take over the fight against Diego Lopes like he did against Yair after Yair almost had him dead to rights, right? Because that's how T-City and Ortega, that's how Ortega won that fight and stayed in it, is because he was able to go to his grappling, he was able just to smother Yair Rodriguez on the ground, not let Rodriguez go anywhere, recover at the same time on the ground, and then eventually get that arm triangle choke in the 3rd round. I don't think he's able to do that against Diego Lopes. I think Lopes is too good on the ground for that to happen. I'm not saying Diego Lopes is a better grappler than Brian Ortega. I don't think that at all. But I think the combination of everything involved, where I don't think Ortega is going to be able to scramble wrestle and just get the fight on the ground and just hold on against Diego Lopes. I don't think that will happen. I don't think Lopes will make the same mistakes Yair Rodriguez will make. And I think Diego Lopes will go out there and finish Brian Ortega in the 1st round. I think, again, he will capitalize on the mistakes that Yair Rodriguez made. I think he will hunt the finish, and I think he will get the finish. Give me Diego Lopes to continue the hype. Again, the only loss he's ever had in the UFC is Movsar Evloev, and Evloev, I would say, is in a number 1 contenders bout coming up against one Aljamain Sterling. They might make the win. I think, okay, the way we look at the featherweight division, because again, we are kind of, we're kind of backed up at the top. You've got the championship fight between Max Holloway and Ilia Topuria. Whoever wins that, it is what it is, right? But then you got Alexander Volkanovski, no matter what, I believe is getting the winner of Holloway Topuria. You've got Aljamain Sterling and Movsar Evloev next month in Salt Lake City in Utah. And you've got this fight as well between T-City and Diego Lopes. There's a chance they have the winners of this fight and that Evloev-Sterling fight, and the winner of that little 4-man bracket will get the winner of whoever gets out of Topuria, Holloway, and Volkanovski. I don't know. That's just the way I kind of see it right now. I think the winner of Aljo Evloev should be getting a title shot regardless, not having to fight the winner of Ortega and Lopes. But we'll see. But I mean, the way you look at the rankings right now, I mean, Brian Ortega is coming off a win over Yair Rodriguez, who was the former interim champion, right? I believe Ortega is 3, right? He's 3. Lopes is 12. Yeah, so if Lopes wins, he's be in the top 3. I think what they will do, though, I think they will have the winner of Evloev and Sterling fight the winner of Ortega Lopes. And then again, we will have Volk, Topuria, and Holloway all fighting. Eventually, one of those guys is going to come out the champion in that one. But again, I think Lopes will be the winner of this fight. Give me Diego Lopes to go out there and capitalize again on a diminished Brian Ortega, a guy who, again, I don't think is going to be at 100%, making that 145-pound weight division. I think, again, the victory is going to go to Diego Lopes. I think he'll go out here and get the 1st round finish. Co-main event time for the flyweight championship. Alexa Grasso and Valentina Shevchenko. It is the trilogy, the first ever championship trilogy in in women's MMA history, I do believe Grasso and Shevchenko, they'll do it for a third time. About even odds for this one, I understand it. Again, you go back the first fight, UFC at 285, that's where the pound for pound greatest fighter of all time, Jon Jones, that's a Dana White joke, but I mean, Jon Jones is, I guess, yeah, he's the greatest fighter of all time. Currently, is he number one pound for pound? I don't think so, but it is what it is. Shevchenko and Alexa Grasso goes in there and gets a submission in the fourth round. Again, that fight is close, but again, Shevchenko I thought was winning. I don't think that's too crazy of a take. Grasso, though, again, gets that submission in the fourth round. She was down, I thought, 3-1 in the cards. There's going to be down 3-1 going on the cards into the fifth round. I think the only round that Grasso won was the first. 2, 3, 4 was all Shevchenko. But Grasso, again, takes her back. Great back take, gets the submission, puts her way with a rear naked choke. The second fight, UFC Noche, last year, Mexican Independence Day. Alexa Grasso and Shevchenko go to a draw. Now, if it's not for the 10-8 scorecard in the fifth round, I don't know how anyone could give a 10-8 scorecard to Grasso in the fifth round, Valentina Shevchenko would have won the fight. I thought watching it live, Valentina won, I'll be honest with you. And rewatching the fight still, I think Valentina wins the fight. That's why I'm going with Alexa Grasso to win the third fight. Okay, Valentina's 36 years old, and that's not why I'm picking Grasso to win this fight, but Valentina's 36. And again, how many of these fights can you truly have? How many 5-round, again, and Shevchenko's been in her fair share of just dominant fights, but how many 5-round close fights can you really have until, again, you start to deteriorate as a fighter? Shevchenko's 36. Grasso is finally, she's really in her prime. She's in the midst of her prime at 31 years of age. For Shevchenko, again, 36 years of age. She's had 2 fights against Grasso. She hasn't won either of them. Now, she should have won the second. But again, I just don't like all the inactivity. It's been a full year for Shevchenko. It's not her fault that they haven't fought, obviously, right? Again, they filmed The Ultimate Fighter. They did all that. Again, I wasn't very too keen on the coaching staffs of the, it just wasn't entertaining watching Grasso and Shevchenko as the coaches. I mean, we could have gotten, I don't know, they're not going to fight, but Covington, Ian Gary would have been a lot better. Literally anything, but they gave us Grasso, Shevchenko. Anyways, again, it's been a full year since Valentina's last fought. I think she's slower. Her punches don't do as much damage as it seems like they used to. And again, I don't think she's the same fighter. Don't get me wrong. I thought in that last fight, she didn't look like prime Valentina, obviously. I still thought she beat Alexa Grasso. But again, now this is another full year after that last fight. She was 35 for that fight. She's 36 now. I'm not a fan of it. I'm really not. I'm not a fan of a full year off, and now you're back into another title fight. You've already spent, 9 rounds against Alexa Grasso. She has won majority of them, sure, but she has still not won a fight against Alexa Grasso. And with all that being said, now you're just a year older. I don't think she's gotten better since those last fights. I think if anything, Alexa Grasso is going to continue to get better because she's still 31. And also because, again, Grasso has won the first fight. And then again, the second fight was a draw, but still, Grasso's heading into this fight with all the momentum. She's already beat Valentina once. And I think, again, with Valentina only getting older and it being, again, Mexican Independence Day, and Shevchenko said this at the time, the only reason Grasso got that draw scorecard was because it was Mexican Independence Day and because Shevchenko, again, isn't Mexican. I'm not saying that could play a factor in this fight, but if anything, again, if it's a close decision, I think it's going to go to Alexa Grasso. She is the only Mexican champion the UFC has now. They gave her the custom belt and everything that you can see on the graphic right now. I'll move my camera for a minute, but there's the custom belt they gave Alexa Grasso. I think Grasso's going to win this fight. I think she's going to get it done by decision. I think it's going to be a very close scorecard at 48-47. That's going to show how good Valentina Shevchenko still is. Seriously, that's how good I think Shevchenko truly is still as a fighter. That she's, again, I don't think she's that good. I don't think she's in her prime anymore. She's 36 years of age, and she's still going wire to wire, and she's barely losing a very close 3-2 round decision against the champion Alexa Grasso. I still think Val's good. I just don't think she is the best anymore. I think Grasso is going to barely be able to, edge out a decision victory. I think Grasso is the faster striker. I think Grasso is going to be able to beat her to the punch. Valentina, again, does not look like the same fighter she once was when she was defending the belt back to back, just racking up the defenses. She's just not that same fighter anymore, I don't believe. I think she's slower, and I don't think her punches do as much damage as they once did. I think Grasso wins. I think Grasso is able to outstrike Valentina Shevchenko to victory. Give me the champion, Alexa Grasso, to win this fight by unanimous decision. decision, pushing the Mexican fighters to, I'll say 6-1 in this card. We're not going to count the Brian Ortega versus Diego Lopes fight because both those guys are of Mexican descent. So Mexico wins regardless, right? I'm taking Alexa Grasso to win to push the Mexican fighters to 6-1 in this card. I think Grasso will get it done. I think she will win it by unanimous decision. I think she's just the quicker fighter. I think if this fight hits the ground, I like Grasso too. I think Alexa Grasso outboxes though Valentina Shevchenko to victory. Give me the champion and still world champion Alexa Grasso beats Valentina Shevchenko in the trilogy bout. If Shevchenko wins, do they do it again? They might. But it should be Manon Fior. Fior should be next. That would be an interesting fight between Grasso and Fior. But give me Grasso again for now against Shevchenko. I don't know where Shevchenko goes after this, but time will tell. I think maybe she'll get the winner of, I don't know, Erin Blanchfield and Rose Namajunas could make a lot of sense. The Namajunas-Shevchenko fight has been talked about for years. That could finally happen. I don't know. Give me Grasso, though, to beat Shevchenko by unanimous decision. As we go on to the main event for the Bantamweight Championship of the World, the champion, Sugar Sean O'Malley, gets the challenger coming out of Georgia by way of Cerro Longo in upstate New York. It is Merab Dvalishvili. Actually, no, Long Island, New York, excuse me. Merab versus Sean O'Malley. This is the best fight the UFC could make at 135 pounds. Merab has been on the cusp of a title shot for so long, and he just hasn't taken it. Obviously, again, Aljamain Sterling has been the champion for the longest time. I would say Aljamain Sterling's the greatest bantamweight of all time. Merab was well-deserved of that title fight after he beat Jose Aldo. Of course, he turned it down. Then he beat Piotr Jan. He was given a title shot again, turned it down, beats Henry Cejudo. Now he will take the title shot, obviously, with Sterling losing to O'Malley and with Aljo now officially being up at 145 pounds. Again, Sugar Sean beat Chito Vera in Miami at UFC 299. Great victory, but it is such a different fight now against the machine, Merab Dvalishvili. It's just, you can't prepare for this. It is 25 minutes of nothing but cardio and nothing but wrestling. Now, I see so many people talking about it, about how Merab got clipped by Henry Cejudo at one point. He got clipped and almost finished by Marlon Moraes. And that is true. That is true. And again, what would happen if Sean O'Malley did that? I get that. But at the same time, he got clipped, and what happened? Merab still won the fight. Merab has been able to recover. And again, I know it's not great that he is somewhat hittable. I get that. But at the same time, it shows that he's able to deal with adversity. He's able to deal with getting hit and taking big shots and still come back and still win the fight. I think Merab is very capable, even if Suga does hurt him in this fight. As long as Merab is not put out cold, I trust in Merab's ability to recover. I trust in his ability to get back into the fight and just scramble wrestle when needed, because that's what Merab Dvalishvili does well. And at the same time, again, I understand shooting 50 takedowns or 49 takedowns and not getting, 38 takedowns in a fight is not great, but at the same time, he still got 11 of them, right? We're talking about the Piotr Jan Merab Dvalishvili fight. Obviously, again, the fight where Merab went 11 for 49 shooting on takedowns in that fight. 7 minutes of control in a 25-minute fight, but it was just, again, that constant pace and that constant pressure that had Piotr Jan guessing the entire fight. Again, if you shoot 49 times and your gas tank is still where it was at the beginning of the fight, you're still able to throw big punches. Because again, Jan, we say it all the time, your wrestling makes your striking better, and that was ever so apparent going into that fight. If you look at just the stats of that fight between Merab and Piotr Jan, you're going to see, wow, Merab Dvalishvili outstruck Piotr Jan. Well, no, that wasn't the entire case. It was just, again, the threat of the takedown. Piotr Jan was guessing the entire fight, and Merab, again, made him guess and capitalized on that and outstruck Piotr Jan when needed. I'm not saying that same exact thing is going to happen against Sean O'Malley, but I don't entirely trust Sean O'Malley's takedown defense against Merab. Piotr Jan, just 3 fights ago for Sugar Sean, took down O'Malley 6 of 13 times. And again, I thought Jan beat Sugar Sean. I thought he did. They did not give him the cards. It's whatever. The UFC got the guy they wanted to win the fight. But if Piotr Jan's able to have that much success wrestling with you, what is the best wrestler in the weight class going to do? Now, again, that was my biggest gripe with Aljamain Sterling going into that fight with Sugar Sean O'Malley, is that he didn't wrestle. He shot 1 takedown in the first round. And yes, again, Sterling, who is a much better and a very good he's a striker who's developed really well. He's a wrestler who's developed into a pretty good striker. Won that first round striking with Sean O'Malley. Thought, again, he could just go in there and outstrike him like he's done to Jan at points, Cejudo at points. Again, got knocked out in that second round. But that was my biggest gripe with Sterling going into that fight, or after that fight, is that he didn't wrestle. Well, Merab has to wrestle. Merab is not going to go into a fight and just strike with Sean O'Malley. He is going to go in there, put the wrestling boots on, and shoot and take a shot after shot after shot after shot after shot. It's going to be constant pressure and constant takedowns for Merab Dvalishvili in this fight. And I don't think Sean O'Malley's able to keep up with that. I don't think so. You can't prepare for this. You can't. Because again, the guy has an unlimited gas tank. He's not going to tire out. If you shoot 49 times in a fight and look like you could go another 24 minutes after the fight, 25 minutes after the fight, you're fine. Again, Merab is some of the best cardio I've ever seen in mixed martial arts. It is, again, on, I would say, prime Colby Covington levels of great cardio. That's what Merab Dvalishvili has. And I think in terms of the wrestling, Sean O'Malley has not seen a wrestler like Merab who has been willing just to shoot on him. Because again, Aljamain Sterling, I hate it, but he fell in love with his hands in that fight, thought he could go out there and just outstrike Sugar Sean for 25 minutes and win the fight. Again, I don't know if Sterling was eventually going to wrestle in that fight. One would assume he was going to. But again, Merab doesn't have that. Merab doesn't have the luxury of being a decent striker like Aljamain Sterling is. Merab has to wrestle. Merab has to go down and grind for that victory. And that's what I think he's going to do. It's not going to be something the UFC is going to love, because I think, again, Merab is just going to go out there and absolutely wrestle the hell out of Sean O'Malley. He's going to give him no space. He's going to be in his face the entire fight. Again, Sean might be able to hit him, and I get that point. Again, I completely get it that, again, Cejudo clipped him. Moraes clipped him. I 100% get that. But what happened? Merab stayed in the fight. You can make the case, okay, yeah, all right, O'Malley does hit harder. That's fair. But until Merab gets put out, I'm not going to buy it. I'm not going to. I have not seen a fight out of Merab Dvalishvili in this recent run that makes me think he's not going to win this fight. Everything points to Merab just going out there and absolutely wrestle effing the hell out of Sugar Sean. If Piotr Jan was able to take down O'Malley effectively, Merab Dvalishvili should be able to do the same exact thing. And again, you can't prepare for this style of fight. It is constant pressure, it is constant cardio, and it is constant attack for 25 minutes. And I just don't think O'Malley's able to win it. I don't think he is. Because either O'Malley has to knock him out, which I think is incredibly tough to do, or O'Malley has to win 3 rounds. Because again, the way you'd beat a normal wrestler, you stuff his takedowns, you tire him out because they're shooting all these takedowns, and you force him to strike with you. There's no tiring Merab Dvalishvili out. The guy unsuccessfully shot 38 takedowns in a fight and still won 50-45. You can't tire that guy out. Again, the nickname is so fitting because it's true. The guy is a machine. How does Sugar Sean win this fight? Again, he has to keep it striking, and he's going to have to put away Merab on the feet. He has to knock him out, because I don't think O'Malley's capable of winning a 25-minute decision against Merab Dvalishvili. I just don't think it's possible. So again, unless O'Malley knocks him out, which, again, yes, Merab leaves his chin up in the air sometimes. He leaves himself exposed. It's that same, he throws that right and just flings it out there and leaves his chin exposed that Moraes and Cejudo hit him with. And again, a lot of people have paused that and said, all right, well, if O'Malley hits him with a check left, the fight's over. I get that. I don't think he's going to be able to knock out Merab fully. I think O'Malley will knock down Merab Dvalishvili in this fight. I think he's going to. But I think Merab's able to recover very well. He's able to recover well in a lot of these spots where he has been knocked down and he has been damaged. And I think he comes back in there and he puts the foot on the gas and continues to pressure. That's where I think O'Malley will win some rounds. I think he'll win 1 or 2 maybe. But I think Merab, again, wins this fight at the very least 48-47. I think 49-46 is going to be my guess for Merab winning this fight. I think the one round that Sean O'Malley is going to win is going to be a result of a knockdown. And again, the damage that Merab and the wrestling Merab does in that round isn't going to be all that comparable. So I think they will give that slight round to O'Malley because of a knockdown. But other than that, I think Merab Dvalishvili dominates the fight. I think he dominates with his wrestling. And again, nobody's been able to stop it so far on this run. I don't think Sean O'Malley's the first. I think Merab is beatable, don't get me wrong. But it's going to take a very good wrestler to beat Merab Dvalishvili, and I don't think Sean O'Malley is that very good wrestler. I don't think he is. I think Umar Nurmagomedov is a very tough out for Merab. I think that's a very tough fight for him. I even think, again, if Aljamain Sterling's not coming back down to 135, and those two guys will never fight each other, but Aljamain Sterling stylistically is a horrible matchup for Merab as well. I think Merab's able to shoot on the legs, get on the legs quickly, and again, even if he's not able to get a takedown, I think he's able to outstrength and outmuscle Sean O'Malley to get him back up against the fence, just hold him in the clinch, and really just wear on him. Again, we're talking O'Malley just needs one shot, and again, the way you normally beat wrestlers is by tiring them out, by making them shoot a million times and stuffing the takedowns. Well, at the same time, O'Malley's going to tire in this fight. He is going to. He is going to tire, and there is going to be a lot of wear and tear on Sean O'Malley after having to stuff all these takedowns and after getting thrown. Because, again, I feel like there's going to be a point where Merab is going to be able to pick up Sean O'Malley and try to dump him on his head. That's just the way this guy fights. Again, he is a machine. Is the nickname for a reason. He's got crazy strength at 135 pounds. I think the wrestling is going to pay huge dividends in this fight for Merab Dvalishvili. And, again, I think he will tire out Sean O'Malley because of, again, that constant pressure. You saw the way Petr Yan was at the very end of that fight. Petr Yan was seeing ghosts at the end of the 25 minutes against Merab Dvalishvili, and he was stuffed, again, he was trying to stuff every takedown, and at the end of the fight, when I believe Merab walked over to him to shake his hand, Petr Yan still thought he was in the fight, still tried to stuff a takedown when the fight was over. I mean, seriously, that's what Merab does to guys. I think he's going to do the same thing to Sean O'Malley. Give me Merab Dvalishvili to win the fight by unanimous decision. Again, I feel like, O'Malley was kind of gifted that first title defense. It was a fight that he lost, again, earlier in his career against Chito Vera. Chito Vera beat Pedro Munoz to get the title shot, and Sean O'Malley dominated him. Well, okay, Deiveson Figueiredo is coming off of a pretty dominant and pretty decisive 29-28 scorecard against Marlon Chito Vera in his last fight. That win was nothing special for O'Malley. Aljamain Sterling fight. Again, I don't know why Aljo didn't shoot. I think the Serra-Longo camp is going to be well prepared for the second time around against Sean O'Malley. Merab's been waiting on this title shot for forever because, again, of reasons of his own right, not wanting to fight his friend Aljamain Sterling, he's now going to get the title shot and he's going to capitalize on it. Give me Merab Dvalishvili to beat Sugar Sean O'Malley. He will get it done by unanimous decision. The fight I want to see next for the number one contendership in this division is Deiveson Figueiredo versus Umar Nurmagomedov. Will it happen? I don't know, but that's the fight I want to see next, and I want to see the winner of that fight Merab in 2025. So, folks, that will do it for our UFC Note J or our UFC Sphere or our UFC Riyadh season, UFC 306, whatever you want to call it, predictions here on the channel with the main event for the Bantamweight Championship, Merab Dvalishvili becoming the new Bantamweight champion over the champ, Sugar Sean O'Malley. So, folks, thank you all for watching. Make sure to hit that subscribe button down below for more. Make sure to leave a like if you enjoyed the video. We'll be back tomorrow for our Bellator predictions. We'll be back in 2 days for our college football week 3 predictions and our NFL predictions coming at you in 2 days or 3 days time as well. So make sure to join us for all these predictions videos coming here on the channel. But again, for now, we are taking Merab Dvalishvili to beat Sugar Sean O'Malley in the main event. Make sure to comment if you do disagree with any of the picks. Make sure to leave a like if you did enjoy the video and make sure to subscribe as well. Folks, thank you all for watching, and Mamba forever.